helped you and what has blocked your progress?
Okay. First of all, Kaimen Unao, greetings in my language, and I'm very honored to be in this space today as a Wapichan woman from the South Rukuna District Council, but part of the South Rukuna District Council we have a women's movement, which I am here today in that space. Today is Happy World Down Syndrome Day to everyone, and International Day of Forest, because I come from the part of the Amazon, so it's very important to me. Okay, firstly, I would like to say that the South Rukuna District Council is a legally recognized representative body of 21 villages in the South Rukuna, primarily inhabited by Wapichan indigenous communities. It exercises collective authority over Wapichan territory, focusing on indigenous governance, land rights advocacy, and environmental conservation. So what we have been doing, we have an environmental monitoring, and we're looking to look at how gender is impacted. The SRDC monitors environmental changes across our territory, including the impacts of mining on our rivers and lands. Since 2013, teams of community-led monitors have been navigating the Wapichan region to collect water and soil samples to check the levels of mercury and other contaminants. SRDC also maps deforestation and land degradation in these areas, particularly around our sacred sites and the Marudi Mountain, where illegal mining has been rampant. The monitoring and mapping program is more than just data collection. It is part of our indigenous justice systems rooted in customary law and the right to self-determine governance over our lands, as well as using traditional knowledge. Monitors are trained in legal frameworks, GIS mapping, and environmental testing by our partner organizations, as well as scientific experts. In 2018, a survey on mercury contamination in our rivers revealed alarming results. The findings were: women were disproportionately affected with higher than global average mercury levels in their bodies. Mercury exposure affects women's reproductive health, leading to birth defects and long-term health issues. So for this year, we are launching a new watering testing to see if contamination has worsened and how it continues to impact our health. Community-led monitoring is a mechanism for accountability and harm prevention, particularly for mining-related impacts. By shifting the data imbalance between communities and outside actors, it pushes the government to act and deter harmful activities by miners. Mining and climate change are not just environmental issues. They affect our food security and survival as indigenous peoples. Our traditional food systems are collapsing due to deforestation, water pollution, and climate change. Women are primary caregivers and food providers. They're struggling to find clean water and secure food for their families. To address these issues, as the Wapichan Women's Movement, we have been advocating for more women in leadership roles. Over the past 3 years, we have seen a 23% increase in women's leadership, because women are more vocal on critical issues like land rights, environmental justice, and community health. And as part of that, to also tackle the loss of traditional foods, we are now starting livelihood programs so they can boost the village economy and also see how we can have food security. I'm talking about traditional food security here. So that is what we have been doing over the years, and recently with the work of the Wapichan Women's Movement, our organization has grown, more women are on board. Recently, we just concluded a conference where we had 170 women at that conference. And this is how women's movement, you know, and looking at data from the community-led monitoring, that we can speak, we can be more vocal on issues that affect us. Yeah, so this is it, my story. I can go on and on, but I know I am. Thank you.
It's a powerful one, Maki. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Alice, similarly, could you share your story of community-led data collection with us and its benefits to the women farmers and pastoralists in your community? What's helped you and what's blocked your progress?
Thank you, Natalie, and good afternoon and namaste. Let me just start by introducing what ILC's work on because I represent ILC as well as WGWLO. So I'll start off with the work which ILC, International Land Coalition, is doing on gender and data. Then I'll focus on the work we do in India on women-led data collection to secure women's land rights. We all know that when women have secure land rights, they gain economic independence and political voice, and this is a way out of poverty and violence. They invest in their communities, drive local economies, improve health and education for future generations, and they also sustain and restore ecosystems. So ILC, through the Landex, that's the approach they have. They prioritize on a people-centered approach to data collection, ensuring that the voices of the most marginalized, the most impacted by land governance and land policies, such as the indigenous people, the pastoralists, the small farmers, the women farmers, women, youth, are all heard and represented. Because this gender disaggregate data is very important, and this approach includes the development of women land rights indicators and also indicators on climate indicators, which tracks women's land rights as reflected in the laws and policies, as well as their participation in decision-making processes related to 3 Rio conventions. It is very important to note that women, particularly from the indigenous communities, pastoralists, and rural communities, they play a critical role, I would say, in developing tools and indicators that measure what matters most to them. Their lived experiences and knowledge systems are fundamental in shaping the data collection processes and in designing of indicators that reflect gender-specific challenges and contributions. ILC emphasizes the importance of involving women in all the stages of data development to ensure that resulting matrices address their unique needs and perspectives in relation to land, climate, and environment policies. Now, a little bit of what we do in India. The community, especially from the state I come from, in Gujarat, 6 villages got together and they mapped out the land available for them as pasture land. They found out that this land has not been used for many years. They went to the government, got permission from them to use the land, and today the women's group, they have made it into a grassland, and they are using it as a livelihood because they have the cattle which they graze on this land. So their livelihoods have been improved, the land has been restored, the ecosystem has been restored. So you see the importance of the data which they collected from the community. Again, we collected data on land rights for daughters, widows, and women, how much rights they have on land and inheritance. And they found out the gaps, and immediately the data was used to get their rights. And once they got their land, they started farming on the land. They took up sustainable farming, resilience farming, climate resilient crops. And today they have a better livelihood, they're better economically, and the land is also very well nurtured, and the environment is restored, is protected by these women. And third, we also use the community-led, women-led data to actually build narratives around farmers and to access social security benefits from different departments of the government, because the governments don't converge, but we have to make them converge and bring the data together to get these benefits for strengthening sustainable farming. Even as I speak today here, women are collecting data in the eastern part of India on land rights so that they can fight for their land, and in the whole process they can also restore and protect the environment. Thank you.
Alice, that's tremendous. Alice, thank you so much for sharing. I'm hearing you say that you're collecting data not only on participation in individual processes, but particularly the angle on representation of law and policy is so critical as well. Next, I would love to turn to Fleur, our unit lead for gender, youth, and ACE at UNFCCC. Fleur, what is the role of international policy frameworks and member states to create a more cohesive and gender-responsive ecosystem to actually advance relevant and effective and rights-based policy across the Rio Conventions and the SDGs? Just a small question.
Small question. And I have 3 minutes to answer it. I'm going to start. I think one of the things that we've heard consistently from all of the speakers this morning is it's something around coherence, alignment, synergies, this piece, which is so important. And also, I often start when I'm introducing gender and climate change to people who don't necessarily know what the connections are, by saying that climate change is an economic and social problem, a complex one, that has environmental impacts. And when we think about it in that context, we then start with people, because it's the people's decisions and choices that have created the situation we're in. And then it becomes a lot clearer why gender would be relevant in this context. And data is critically important to provide the nuance to that. And at an international level and a member state level, international cooperation is how we advance many, many things. And you heard it just in the introduction, how important those relationships between countries are. Peer sharing, peer-to-peer learning opportunities are so important so that we're not either reinventing the wheel or missing opportunities for hearing about examples of how you've gone about doing something which is challenging to bring communities together and to bring government and community together, but it's been done. And because it's been done somewhere, it can be done somewhere else. And so the importance of international cooperation can't be overstated, and particularly at this point in time. The point about the land rights, this is one of the things about the coming together with the Rio Conventions. There are strengths in each of the international treaties, and there's a very strong connection in the UNCCD to land, which isn't necessarily there in the Climate Change Convention. And so that cooperation amongst the secretariats of the treaties, but also those who are working with the treaties, becomes important, because land rights, and you've explained very well why it's relevant in this context, is so important. So for us, that a whole of society approach requires engaged governments, and that's national governments all the way through to local governments. Peer-to-peer is important, and then creating these opportunities for introducing new methodologies, as have been described this morning, on how to gather data, ensuring that there is an opportunity for learning new things also within government, and to bring those things not only from civil society also into the mainstream, and how that is done. And finally, I just want to come back to the idea of the vision and the importance of this moment in time, where we have a unique opportunity, particularly within the climate change policy space, because we have nationally determined contributions, national adaptation plans, and long-term strategies. At no other time have we had economy-wide policy instruments that create this opportunity for creating a vision for what happens when we get it right. And I would just leave it there.
words to leave us with, Fleur. And thank you for situating us in the current moment as well, not only in terms of global climate policy, but also as related to politically